Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we visit Alaska. We took a flight from Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport, and 5 hours later, we were in Anchorage, Alaska. By air, Alaska is about 3,000 miles from Minneapolis, which translates roughly to about 4,000 kilometers, which is the same as flying from Bangalore to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. So after taking our rental car, we immediately started driving towards our first stop of the day, which was Alyeska Resort, where we have the Alyeska Tram. The Alyeska Tram takes us to an observation deck, which is 2,300 feet above sea level. It gives spectacular views of glaciers and peaks. There is also a restaurant for those of who you'd like to dine at the observation deck. After spending about 30 minutes at the observation deck, enjoying the breathtaking views that the observation deck had to offer, we took the tram down. Alaska was originally part of the Russian Empire, and it was formally transferred to the United States on October 18, 1867. In 1867, the United States paid $7.2 million to acquire Alaska. The Alyeska Resort, where the Alyeska Tram is located, is about 50 miles from Anchorage. After thoroughly enjoying our first stop, we drove back up to Anchorage to visit the Alaska Zoo. We spent about an hour at the Alaska Zoo and drove about 2 hours to get to Hatcher Pass from the Willow side. However, upon reaching Willow, there was a huge sign which said that the road above Hatcher Pass was closed for the winter. We drove another 2 hours back to our Airbnb, spent the night, and started the next day towards Whittier for our Glacier cruise. After arriving at the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel, we were waiting for the 10:30 a.m. entrance to reach Whittier. The Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel was built between 1941 and 1943 by the US military. The tunnel is about 2.5 miles long, which is about 4 kilometers, and cars are expected to drive at a steady speed of 25 miles per hour. The tunnel opens each way every 30 minutes, and the train also shares the same tunnel. At any given time, the flow of traffic is only in one direction. It costs $13 for a round trip through the tunnel, and there's no stopping once you enter the tunnel. Since we had plenty of time before our cruise started, so we collected our boarding passes and started exploring a little bit of Whittier. There are about 300 full-time residents who live in Whittier, along with the crew of the cruise who come in every season. One cool fact about the town of Whittier is that 80% of its residents live in one building. The town of Whittier is considered to be the wettest city in the United States because it receives roughly about 20 feet of rainfall and 20 feet of snow at sea level every year. The US military was interested and constructed a tunnel because this was an ice-free deep-water port, and it was strategically located in Anchorage and interior Alaska. The cruise which we were going to be on was from Phillips Cruises, and this was the 26 Glacier cruise. Boarding started at 12 p.m. and the cruise departed at about 1 p.m. The cruise also offers meals. They offer salmon chowder and veg chili. We opted for the salmon chowder, which is absolutely delicious. The meal is included as part of the trip. They also have complimentary beverages like tea and coffee, and they also bring out warm cookies towards the end of the trip. As the name suggests, this cruise takes you around to about 26 glaciers. Sometimes they might change the route, but they take you really close to a glacier. The closest glacier we went to was about a quarter of a mile away. On the way to the glaciers, we saw some porpoises, some sea lions, otters, a lot of wildlife. Every time we spot some wildlife, the captain of the cruise slows the ship down and even stops so that we can get a good look and view the wildlife. Our trip was a short 2-day trip. We landed in Alaska on Friday and immediately started visiting the spots on our list. We did the cruise on Saturday, and we had an early morning flight back to Minneapolis on Sunday. A couple of items to keep in mind when planning a trip to Alaska is if you want to see the snow in the mountains, then plan the trip before June. But if you want to cross Hatcher Pass, then plan your trip after the end of July. Do keep in mind that the Phillips cruise season starts sometime in May and goes all the way till October. This cruise was about $159 per person plus taxes, but it was totally worth it. This is my second time on the same cruise. I did the same cruise back in 2019 with my parents. We finally arrived up and close to a glacier where we saw ice calving, where huge chunks of ice breaks off of the glacier and falls into the water with a loud bang. The crew fishes some of the glacier ice out and breaks it down. You can take some of the ice to taste it. put it in your drink, or just put it in water and drink. On our way back to Whittier, we were lucky enough to spot an orca whale, also known as the killer whale. We had a really good time on the cruise, immersed in the natural beauty that Alaska has to offer and the Prince William Sound. The cruise brought us back to Whittier at about 6 p.m. and we took the 7 p.m. tunnel out of Whittier. We started driving up towards Anchorage and then eventually towards Hatcher Pass, but this time we took a different route and drove all the way up till where the road was closed. It took us about 2.5 hours to reach Hatcher Pass, but the scenic drive and the beauty were totally worth the drive. As you guys can see, they've closed the road, it's filled with snow, they haven't cleared the snow, and apparently there were a couple of avalanches which happened. The road on top of Hatcher Pass is closed during winter time and it's only open from July to October in any given year. After spending some time at Hatcher Pass, we drove back down. It looks like there's a lot of light, but it was 10 p.m. and there was still light because sunset in Anchorage is at 11 p.m. The drive back to Anchorage was between 1.5 hours to 2 hours. It is said that over 50% of the population in Alaska lives in Anchorage. There are a lot of places to visit in Alaska, like the Denali National Park, Talkeetna River, Thunderbird Falls. You could go dog sledding. You could even take a chopper and land on one of the glaciers. On our way back, we stopped by the Sustina River and finally arrived at our Airbnb. We had a really good time at Alaska, although it was a really short trip, but we managed to pack a lot of places during those 2 days. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, guys.